Alan's ears rang with the sound of his mother's scream. He turned just in time to see the man in black drive his blade through her chest. The world stopped for a second. Her eyes met his, wide with shock and pain. Then she collapsed to the floor. His little brother Sam clung to his arm, crying so hard it was like the sound was tearing his throat apart. "Run!" his father shouted, swinging an axe at another attacker. "Take your brother and run!" Alan didn't move fast enough. His legs felt frozen, but the moment a flaming torch crashed through their window, he snapped out of it. Grabbing Sam's hand, he pulled him toward the back door, heart hammering so loud he could barely hear the chaos outside. The smell of burning wood and blood mixed in the air, thick and suffocating. Through the gaps in the wooden fence, Alan saw them. Men dressed head to toe in black leather, faces covered, eyes glinting like wolves in the dark. They weren't just killing, they were hunting. Houses burned, neighbors screamed, and the ground was littered with bodies. Alan's mind could barely process it. These were people he had known all his life, gone in seconds. Sam stumbled and Alan yanked him up, whispering, "Don't look, just keep moving." But Sam did look, and the small gasp that escaped him told Alan he'd seen their father fall to his knees, blood pouring from his side. Alan bit his lips so hard it bled, forcing himself not to cry. If he broke down now, they'd both die. They ran through the field behind their house, mud splashing up their legs. Alan's lungs burned, and every step felt slower than the last. He could still hear the hoofbeats. Closer now. Whoever those men were, they weren't going to leave survivors. A hand caught Alan's shoulder from behind, yanking him back so hard he almost fell. He spun around, ready to fight, but it wasn't an enemy. It was old Jacob, their neighbor, his face pale, his breathing ragged. "Come with me," Jacob hissed. "This way." Jacob led them through a narrow path hidden between tall hedges. The cries and screams faded behind them, replaced by the deafening sound of Alan's heartbeat. When they finally stopped, they were deep in the woods, under the cover of darkness. Sam collapsed against Alan, sobbing uncontrollably. Alan put his arms around him, his own body trembling. Jacob's voice broke the silence. "They'll be back. They never take just once. They burn it all. We have to keep moving before daylight." Alan's voice was hollow. "My parents, they're—" He couldn't say the word. Jacob looked at him for a long moment, then put a hand on his shoulder. "You can cry later. Right now, you survive. Understand?" Alan swallowed hard and nodded. Inside, a seed of something else began to grow, hotter than grief, sharper than fear. Revenge. The first man Alan killed never saw him coming. A silent arrow cut through the air, piercing the raider's throat before he could cry out. The body hit the dirt with a dull thud, and Alan didn't even pause. His bow was already drawn again, eyes locked on the next target. It had been 10 years since that night, the night his family died and the boy named Alan ceased to exist. What stood here now was a weapon. Years of brutal training under Master Kyle had carved every ounce of weakness out of him. His hands were calloused, his body scarred, and his heart empty, except for the single purpose that had kept him alive, to kill every last one of them. Tonight was the first step. He moved through the camp like a shadow, his black cloak blending with the darkness. Around the fire, the raiders laughed, oblivious. Alan studied their faces. He knew some of them. The one with the crooked nose had dragged his father to his knees. The tall one with the jagged scar had struck his mother down. His vision blurred for a moment, rage threatening to take control. but he forced himself to breathe. Rage without control was weakness. Kyle had taught him that. A scream erupted from the far end of the camp. Alan's distraction team, two allies he'd met in the borderlands, had started their part of the plan. The raiders grabbed weapons, scattering toward the noise. Alan waited for his target, the leader. There he was, Garin Vesk, the man in black leather who had stood in the middle of Alan's burning village all those years ago, watching like a king surveying his conquest. He hadn't aged well. His hair was thinner, his face more lined, but his eyes were exactly the same, cold, empty. Alan stepped out from the shadows. "Remember me?" Garin turned, squinting at him. For a moment there was no recognition. Then it hit him. The smirk faded. "The boy," he muttered. "The boy," Alan repeated. "Who watched you butcher his family?" Garen's hand went to his sword, but Alan was faster. Steel clashed in the darkness, sparks flying as their blades met. Garin was strong, but Alan had been forged for this moment. Every strike was fueled by a decade of pain. Every block was the memory of Sam's cries. Every lunge was his mother's final breath. Garin faltered, stumbling back. Alan's blade found its mark, sliding through the man's chest. Garin gasped, blood on his lips. "It wasn't personal," he whispered. Alan's voice was ice. "It was to me." He pulled the blade free, letting the man collapse into the dirt. Around him, the camp was in chaos, raiders fleeing, his allies cutting them down one by one. But Alan didn't feel triumph, just emptiness. Gale's voice echoed in his head. "Revenge fills the hands, not the heart." Alan looked up at the burning camp. It was over. The boy had returned. The debt was paid. But as the flames reflected in his eyes, he realized something chilling. His war wasn't done.